Good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of Catholic Messenger Conversations. We're here with Bishop Thomas Zinkula, the Bishop of the Diocese of Davenport, and I'm your host, Barbara Arlen Fye, editor of the Catholic Messenger. And today's topic is going to focus on the fall meeting of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. Bishop, I know that you and your fellow bishops met in mid-November for this meeting, and that the bishops approved a document on the Eucharist at the fall meeting in Baltimore. And that document kind of began on a bumpy journey last year as a proposal that some outsiders said aimed to deny communion to President Joe Biden, who's Catholic and pro-choice, and other Catholic politicians who are pro-choice. But the document passed without any controversy and by a huge margin, 222-8. Why? What happened?
So I would suggest a number of things. Who knows how the Holy Spirit works in these situations? But so to prepare ourselves to more closely work with the Holy Spirit, I think at that conference was one thing we did was to begin the meeting in prayer. So it was Monday morning, and it was prayer before the Blessed Sacrament, adoration. Archbishop Kurtz from Archdiocese of Louisville gave a reflection, a homily, and there's opportunities for to celebrate the sacrament of penance, and we prayed the Rosary. So that kind of set the tone. I think that helped, and then also just the fact that we were in person. The last time was two or three times we've been doing these meetings by Zoom, and there's a whole different feel to it. So it just in terms of camaraderie and everything, so that helped a lot. We also after that interesting June meeting, that was some lots of differences of opinion. We had opportunity. One thing that came out of that was that we should have some regional meetings. So it's not just this big, large group. It's there's regions. Like our region is Region 9. It's the diocese in Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, and Iowa. So we had it was a Zoom meeting, but we had a chance to, more people can be heard in terms of, that document.
Was that in the fall, or when did you do that?
In the summertime. Mm-hmm. It was that other meeting was in June, so it was later in the summer or very early fall, in there somewhere. So we had a chance to everybody to be heard, and then there's this draft document that was put out before the November meeting, and so we could offer amendments, and people had a lot of chances to weigh in on this whole thing.
Didn't you say didn't Deacon Frank Agnoli of our diocese have some input on the amendments? Or?
Right, Deacon always with anything that's liturgical or sacramental. This is the Eucharist, right? So he gives it a good hard look. Sometimes it's a lot of pages, a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And thankfully, he has time to kind of look at that lots more carefully than I do usually, and he offers some suggestions for modifications that we might want to put forward. And so, and they're very thoughtful, and they often will accept them. Mm-hmm. Often they will. They don't always, but they always give a reason why they don't, if they don't accept it. So then we had an executive session after that prayer to start off things, which, gave us a chance to talk about things without the media, like
That's
people like
right.
you, Barb, being
so
present.
So you can't really tell us what you said.
No, but obviously, maybe we talked about this document. It's for,
maybe.
And for one thing, anyway. And so you have a chance to just kind of speak as brother bishops without worrying about anybody looking over your shoulder and whatever. So maybe that helped. But ultimately, synod and synodality are these big words these days that we're throwing around. And it was an exercise in synodality. We listened to each other.
That's cool.
And walked with each other on this journey with this document. So I think.
Were you surprised by that? Because in June, I sat in on some or listened in on some of those meetings, and some of those bishops were pretty, polarized in the discussion.
I suppose you could look at it and from that perspective, but I actually wasn't. I wasn't after seeing this process unfold, I was surprised that the media was expecting so many fireworks. I mean, the draft document was leaked. People saw where it was at with things, and it wasn't polarizing.
Right.
And I suppose somebody could have put an amendment out there, and that would have been problematic to some bishops, but I didn't expect it, honestly.
Did you think any Vatican input might have influenced how the document got shaped in terms of making sure not to name names in the document?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think probably everyone took notice of that, and probably it played somewhat of a role. I don't know how much exactly, but yes, another voice, an important voice that was presented.
Right.
So listening to that.
What were your thoughts overall about the document itself? It's 31 pages. I've read through it.
Yeah, no, I mean, there were some who critiqued it and thought it was a step backwards, that it wasn't kind of pulling in Vatican II ideas as much. But that was before it was amended. There's lots of amendments. I was happy with it. I think it was, it wasn't trying to say everything there is to say about the Eucharist.
Right.
I mean, that'd be volumes, right? So, okay, here's the situation that we're in right now, and there's this Eucharistic Congress coming up, a Eucharistic revival, and here's where our people are at in terms of not believing in the real presence. So it's kind of, okay, let's speak to that, right? So, at the heart of it, it talks about Jesus' self-giving love, and that when we experience that, then we sort of imitate that, and we we share that love with others, and there's social implications of the Eucharist, and so that should all affect how we live our lives. So I think most people of the bishops and people afterwards, I think people are happy with it overall.
Well, I was struck by, you had said something earlier about it being about, that you really appreciated the focus on love, on Christ's self-giving love. And, I mean, that inspired me in working on an editorial, especially after I read the document. And I think it was very good in terms of saying what the Eucharist calls us to do as people.
Right.
We don't just receive, we act.
Yeah, and I think part of it too, in terms of why it developed the way it did, was Bishop Rhodes, who was shepherding it through. He's the head of the doctrine committee, whatever that's called. He did really well in terms of just being sort of a peaceful presence, and sensible, and listen. He listened to folks, and he wasn't trying to push his own thing. He just kind of, okay, here's where we were at with things, and trying to capture that in words, and that made a big difference, I think.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Tone of voice, it seems, really matters when you're having discussions with people. When you talk about synodality, I've just noticed it really makes a difference when people are talking to one another. The tone of their voice and how that comes across to the person who's listening.
It's almost as important as the content of what they're saying, how you say it, and that sort of sort of thing. Really, I agree.
I appreciate that. So, what were the other important? And I suppose, will you tell us how you voted on the document? By the way.
Well, I mean, it was 222 to 8, so. Odds are
that you voted in support of it.
Percentages and things, and
well, you could have been one of the 8.
Well, I could have been, but
probably not.
Given what I've said about
that's
it,
right.
Like, what would you guess?
I would guess that you voted in favor of it.
Could be.
Awesome. So, what are the other important topics that you address at the fall meeting?
All right. So, for people who haven't paid attention to this, and but are interested. So there's just some really basic things at the beginning. There's introducing new members, new bishops. That doesn't take long, that kind of thing. Praying for deceased bishops. There's a message from the Holy Father always. So so that's read. And then the nuncio, apostolic nuncio, gives an address. And there we obviously approved minutes of the last meeting, all that kind of stuff. And so after the nuncio's remarks, the president of the conference, and right now it's Archbishop Jose Gomez, and so he gives an address. Both of those were well received by the bishops and I think others as well. And then we start, then the National Advisory Council chair gives a report, and
remind me again, the National Advisory Council. What is their task, or what do they do? So
it's like like for in a parish, there's a parish council. In the diocese, there's a diocesan pastoral council.
Right.
So at this level, it's the same kind of thing, but at the national level. So they, Chris Priest was on that. I'm not sure if she still is.
Oh, okay,
that.
yes,
she was
that's
representing our region. I'm not sure if her term has ended. I haven't talked to her about that recently. But then there's, committee reports on different committees in different areas, and sometimes there's action items that we vote on. So there's all that kind of stuff. I mean, ultimately, one of them was this document on the Eucharist. That committee later on in the conference, that's the committee on doctrine. We voted on that. Then there's I'm kind of going through the agenda. And there's morning prayer when we start, and there's midday prayer, and along the way, those kinds of things. So just all these committees. Then there's a cause for the beatification and canonization of some servants of God. So that's always brought to the bishops' conference. It's not like they have to get our approval to go forward, but it's just something that we do traditionally. Just kind of bring attention to the bishops, and since I've been around, it's always been like unanimous to, kind of.
Who are some of those servants?
They're all lay persons. So there's been always there's bishops and sisters, and so I think folks are putting forth more local level kinds of folks. So there's two of them presented by the Bishop of Lafayette, Diocese of Lafayette in Louisiana. I can't remember the details, but they're just regular folks, a lay woman, a layman, and then someone from Honolulu, Diocese of Honolulu. Just kind of like they don't like jump out at you as like, oh right. Wow, flashy kind of a Mother Teresa kind of a saint, but just regular people.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so that was interesting. And so then that's kind of getting towards the end. Then there's towards the end, then there was the Catholic Campaign for Human Development gives a report. They always do that. There's the thing on the Synod. There's some time to present on that.
Did the Pope speak on the Synod in his opening remarks to you, or his message?
I don't remember. Probably. So there's that, and they showed us some video thing on that. Catholic Relief Services, Catholic Charities, Clinic, the Immigration Network, and then there was a presentation on the Eucharistic Revival. That was part of their committee presentation. So just kind of, and then there's the last thing's an executive session where you hear from the the lawyer representing the conference, all those kinds of things, and different kinds of whatever things you talk about in executive session.
Could you share some of
those?
Which
I can't. Well, I couldn't. I had to skip. I had to miss it. It was Thursday morning. I needed to be in Indianapolis.
That's right. You went to
National
Catholic Youth
Conference for a mass. We had a mass just for the diocese, people from the diocese, at Thursday later in the afternoon. So I missed executive.
So do you have to fly from Baltimore to Indianapolis then, or what?
I flew from Baltimore. Yeah, I had to go to Atlanta.
Oh, wow.
To catch the flight to Indianapolis. And while I was in Atlanta, I was just sitting, kind of just hanging out for my next flight. And so Ryan Burchett's wife, Monica's sister, came through, and her husband.
Oh, that's funny.
They were going someplace, just for the long weekend. And so there, and then there's all these kids and going to NCYC from like
Wow.
Virginia and
Yeah.
places. Like it's so obvious that they were, and so some of them would talk and whatever. So it was fun.
That's great. So what about this? Did the Protecting God's Children's Committee meet, or did they have anything?
Yeah, so I'm the regional rep for protecting.
Oh, you're the regional rep. I didn't know
I'm the
that.
regional rep. That's why I'm on that.
Oh.
Because like I'm one. It's not like an honorary thing. Like, oh my gosh, let's honor Bishop Zinkula. It's more like I'm one of the newer bishops, and it was our turn, our province's turn to have somebody on that.
And they chose you.
And so it was like, yeah. So there you
Wow.
go. So no, that's yeah. It's let me look and see kind of what we talked about. So there's a meeting. That was Sunday all day. Oh no, it was a subcommittee on Africa in the early morning, and then later in the morning I had to leave that early so I could go to this thing. And then the subcommittee meeting, and then there was a meeting with this. There was always a meeting with the Committee for the Protection of Children and Young People, and the National Review Board.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So there's always, because there's a connection, obviously. So there's, there was a lot of interesting things that we talked about. One of them, significant thing, was that from the Committee on Protection of Children and Young People, that we talked about this the last meeting, so there's a charter for the protection of children and young people, right, that we're all aware of. And it was up for review in 2025, right?
Oh, okay.
So we're like, there's been so many things that have happened in recent years, like Fos Estis, this thing on bishops,
right,
and the Code of Canon Law, it's been this section dealing with penalties.
Okay.
Penal law has been updated recently, in a big way. And other things that, we really need to incorporate that in the take another hard look at this charter. And there's one thing that's a newer thing is like vulnerable adults. So
yes.
So not just people who are maybe lack the use of reason, the full use of reason or something like that, but just somebody that's maybe there's a power differential.
And that's
something
interesting.
That's inappropriate conduct with regard to a priest or somebody else, and so what do you do about that?
That's interesting.
What's the process for that? Do we just use the same one that we use with children, or does Rome get involved in those things? Or that's we've been talking about that in our diocese for almost since I came, just on our own, trying to figure this out, and procedures for that, and who's did we use our diocesan review board, or is that's a different thing versus the children. And or do we have a separate one? And so we've been sort of, what do you do with those kinds of situations?
Wow.
So that reminds me, there was another thing. Bishop Scicluna, who's this expert guy from Italy on canon law and stuff.
Right.
He actually spoke to us via Zoom about this revised section of the code on the penal sanctions and things. So that was we separated into two different time slots, because it would have been too long, but like an hour each. And so he just kind of went over those new the new law.
Can you talk about some of those new laws, what they do specifically?
It's a lot of stuff. I don't have that with me.
Okay.
But one of them is this thing with vulnerable adults.
Okay.
What about that? That situation is, what's the law say on that now? But a lot of things that, you might think are not, more technical kinds of things that.
So this law regarding vulnerable adults, would that be something that the Universal Church then would look at, as opposed to just the U.S. Church?
Yeah, but that's what I was hoping. We've been hoping for here.
Okay.
Because rather than just kind of figuring out on our own, because we have done some things, but it's like you get bogged down then. Or what if the church just goes in a different direction, or whatever? So It's still in process. I mean,
Okay.
it's still, there's stuff out there now on that, but I think we need to
Okay.
kind of take a look at it and maybe take some more steps with it and flesh it somewhat. It's some unclarity as to, on some of it, how to deal with those cases.
Wow.
So that otherwise with that committee, there's just a lot of good things that we talked about.
Sounds like another story there maybe to work on or something. Maybe I can talk about that later. What about the subcommittee on Africa? You've been serving on that for a couple of years now?
Yeah, so actually it was kind of interesting. I don't know if it's been at least a couple, maybe 3. And in fact, there's a change of leadership. So one of the things we did was some visioning for like what should we be focusing on for this next group.
Oh, good.
Right, the next group that's on this committee. So the new chair, he's the auxiliary for Portland, in Washington, and so he called, left a voicemail asked me if I would want to continue serving on it. I said yes,
great.
and so what's his name? Peter. I think his last name. He's from South Africa.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Which so kind of interesting that he would know the terrain.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, and he has an interesting story too. Actually, he was part of the People of Praise. With Amy Conan Barrett, the Notre Dame.
Oh, yeah.
He came. That's why he came. He's part of that. He's not charismatic, sort of whatever.
That's interesting.
That's what brought him here. He wasn't a priest or anything. So it's I'm curious to kind of
I want to read more about his story.
About him. Yeah, I'd be interested to kind of hear what his experience was. But so anyway, that I'll be on that for a while longer. And we always do look at different grants.
Right.
So people from different Episcopal conferences in Africa ask. There's this Solidarity Fund, that it's just a collection taken up in a lot of dioceses, and here's this amount of money, and people ask for things to be funded. So I had about this time 1, 2, 3, 4 different grants to look at, and for example, one from the bishops in Southern Africa. They want to have a 2-day workshop with the bishops and other persons responsible for migrants and refugees, and peace and justice coordinators, and they want to kind of take a look at Pope Francis's Fratelli Tutti, and like how looking at it through that lens, and how to better serve those people. So we think about our situation with refugees and migrants. They've got their issues too, big time.
That. Yeah.
So like legal protection, what can we do around that? Access to healthcare and education, employment, things like that. So to kind of develop some strategies and take a look at that. So
very interesting.
Yeah.
And so our projects from all over Africa, not just
all over, right?
Central or Southern Africa.
No, all over. And so here's another one for here's one for Central Africa. They want to do a training thing on the encyclical Fratelli Tutti, and for their thing is more. So there's these border issues and things, and how can we be these cross-border situations? How can we be more in communion with each other, the different dioceses?
Yeah.
Universal fraternity, dealing with socio-political problems, wars, instability. So they want to gather 80 participants, including 50 bishops. So from 50 bishops from Congo, 9 from Rwanda, and 8 from Burundi, and kind of do some collaborating on that.
Wow. Now, you've been to Africa, haven't you?
Just once. I've been to Ghana. I have a good priest friend from Ghana. And so I went there and visited. It was a number of years ago for a couple of weeks. So that's it. So on On this committee, normally you would,
Travel to Africa.
travel. In fact, with our visioning, we were saying we haven't been able to do that, with
Right.
COVID, but that we really want to do that, more of that. And so, including bishops on the
Right.
committees. I'm be happy to, and I've told them that. They know that they've asked me.
Right.
I'd be happy to go over there and provide my support.
You probably need a reporter to.
Probably,
So
right,
you have
yeah.
to make sure to
Yeah,
make a pitch for that.
right.
So if you were to go to Africa now, what country, is there a particular country you would like to visit after reviewing some of these projects?
Yeah,
or?
no, I might be open to wherever, where they're thinking about going. I mean, they're strategic about it, and there's a reason
Right.
why they go this place to that place. I'm not really
Okay.
particular.
But there are a lot of pressing needs in the
Oh,
countries,
yeah.
right? I mean, does that just
Yeah.
make you even more aware when you're looking at all these requests
Definitely.
for projects?
Yeah, definitely. And also, I mean, there's that side of it. There's all these needs, big time, but the church is alive there.
That's what you've been saying.
I mean, the
Matt.
church it's young and growing, and it's...
What do you attribute that to? The Holy Spirit, but is it?
I don't know. I mean, I suppose there's probably a lot of reasons. I mean, it's new, I suppose, for one thing. There's really ancient pockets of Christianity over there.
Right.
Ethiopia and other places in northern Africa. So it's not like, but just pockets. So now it's I don't know what it is. There's it's definitely spreading. But it's not just Catholicism. There's
Right.
evangelical and other kinds of Protestant groups too that are there. But the Catholic Church definitely has a big presence, and it's growing.
So we probably need to study that a little bit more to figure out how we can bring some of that revival to the U.S.
I know,
right?
really. I mean, it's interesting. Like in terms of Ghana, when I went there, I ran into a lot of people who were talking about divine word, and how it wasn't just divine word, but they were one of the groups that were instrumental in bringing the faith to Ghana back in like the 50s, 60s.
They're based in Dubuque,
And so,
aren't they?
well, there's a college seminary.
Oh, okay.
Their college seminary is in Epworth, just west of Dubuque. And so, I mean, I was aware of that. I never thought much of, okay, that's fine. There's this, and there'd be these Iowa farm boys, that kind of had a sense of deep faith and sense of adventure. And so, anyway, in Ghana, that would join Divine Word, be educated and be ordained. And I heard about like a couple of them that they were very fond of. They spent decades there, and beloved by the people. And they're telling me, I can't remember their names were, but and they're from, Iowa, and I gained a whole new respect for Divine Word and these
Wow.
guys that went off and did that. And so now, interestingly, so then once you kind of help them establish a faith, then you back out. Once
Right.
there's native clergy, and that's better, obviously. So then you back out. So now it's established, and now we're struggling, right, with regard to ordinations and needing priests. And so now there's these priests from Ghana that
Right.
are helping us,
That's just amazing.
including in our diocese.
Yeah.
I know, isn't that something? It's
That's
just kind of
awesome.
circle thing.
Anything. What else? Anything else before we close up the conversation for this month?
Maybe we could talk about all these things more, and and other things. But in terms of Bishop's conference meeting, but I would just say, circling back around to the Bishop's conference meeting, everyone felt good about it. It was a good meeting. But there was that document, all that. But just even in general, part of it was just we hadn't been together for so long. It's so good to see each other, and so it's going to be that. But so that's part of it, maybe a large part. But it was just really good and we had just had a good meeting, and the prayer and everything else.
That's great.
Was good.
Well, thank you, Bishop, for another great conversation, and we'll look forward to next month's conversation.
All right, sounds like a deal.
Thank you very much.